All right, welcome to the stream. This is going to be the last stream for a while because I'm going away for a while. People who would rather someone else host this show are going to get their wish because I am going to be gone for a while. We are going to talk about the growing push to war, maybe in Iran, although Donald Trump now is saying maybe he doesn't want to go to war. Maybe he does. Who knows? He's going to do, I guess, what he thinks is the right thing, and his moral compass is completely askew. So that's a concern. Trump doing what he sees as the right thing is very, very concerning for everybody. But one angle that hasn't been discussed as much is the fact that there's no congressional approval for action in Iran. And according to Donald Trump's own tweets years ago, that congressional approval, that congressional authorization would be necessary if Donald Trump wants to take action in Iran. So we're going to get to that. We're going to look at Trump's old tweets. We're going to look at a whole bunch of different stuff. But like I said, my last live stream for a while, because we've got tomorrow's show, and then I am flying away for a while. I've got some work stuff. I'm going to a wedding, and I'm just going to be missing for a very long time, unless I decide to stream during my trip, in which case, who knows what could happen. This is a live stream, which is different from watching clips that I've recorded earlier in the day, in that it's live, unless it's a replay, meaning you can participate. You can send me questions or comments via super chat. That's the $ at the bottom of the chat window. As those come in, they will pop up on the screen. I will answer the questions. I will address the comments, which is a very exciting thing. I am also willing to open the phone lines. Maybe this is going to be the last time I take phone calls for a while, other than tomorrow's broadcast show. But for a live stream, this is it. This is your last opportunity for a while to call in and talk to me. And I will open the phone lines if and when we get either 10 new members or 15 new patrons. People have asked me to do patronage because patronage starts at $1 a month, whereas the memberships are, I guess they start at $2.08 a month. So some people like the idea of $1. So if we get 10 new members on our website, coupon codes down below, or 15 new patrons at patreon.com/David Pakman Show, I will open up the phone lines, and we don't screen calls, and all sorts of interesting and unique people often call in. Please don't troll the live chat. 2 people got banned today before the live stream even started, which is incredible. I mean, it's amazing that people are able to get themselves banned before there is even anything to comment on. But somehow they figured it out. They were able to do it. And you can also use the join button down below to become a YouTube channel member. So let's get right into it. One of the areas that has not been properly discussed, in my opinion, about the possible push to war that Donald Trump has been starting to hint at and create a context for is that the president, supposedly, according to what Donald Trump tweeted a bunch of times years ago, needs congressional approval if indeed he wants military action against Iran. And Nancy Pelosi, for all of her many faults that we've talked about for many years and we could outline again, she is pointing this out. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters that the Republican administration would provide a classified briefing for top lawmakers on Iran later on Thursday. The Trump administration does not have congressional authorization to go to war against Iran, the Democratic leader of the U.S. House of Representatives said on Thursday, amid escalating tensions in the region. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi told reporters that the Republican administration would provide a classified briefing for top lawmakers, the so-called Gang of Eight, on Iran later on Thursday. Saudi Arabia's deputy defense minister on Thursday accused Iran of ordering an attack on Saudi oil pumping stations that Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi militia has claimed responsibility for. The attack proves that these militias are merely a tool that Iran's regime uses to implement its expansionist agenda, tweeted Prince Khalid bin Salman, a son of King Salman. The terrorist acts ordered by the regime in Tehran and carried out by the Houthis are tightening the noose around the ongoing political efforts. We sort of talked about this on the Tuesday show, I believe it was. The attacks took place against the backdrop of U.S.-Iranian tension following Washington's decision this month to try to cut Tehran's oil exports to zero and beef up its military presence in the Gulf in response to what it called Iranian threats. Now, this is a really important point to understand. Iran, I have said for years, I believe is a bad faith actor that is operating in the context of a horrible theocracy, which I oppose unconditionally, right? I mean, no matter whether we identify individual good faith acts or bad faith acts by Iran as an entity, as a geopolitical player, as a nation state, I oppose the theocratic regime of Iran. But increasingly, the United States is the bad actor here. Remember that we had, Trump talks about he doesn't want a war, he wants a diplomatic solution. Well, we had a diplomatic solution in place that Iran stuck to. It's called the Iran nuclear deal, put in place by President Barack Obama to much controversy, with much disagreement. But Iran did stick to it. And when Donald Trump comes in and says, I never liked the deal, I think Obama was wrong to do it, so I'm canceling the deal. You can't, if you get a car loan and someone comes in later and says, we've bought out the car loan company, and we don't really like that low interest rate that you were offered. So there's no more car loan. I mean, either you pay us in full right now, or we up the car loan to 20% interest or whatever. That's not how normal sort of by two-party agreements work, right? That's the whole point of them, that both parties are sticking to predetermined requirements, and Iran stuck to it. So the last thing I would want to do as someone who does not trust the Iranian theocratic regime, the last thing I would want to do is give them any justification, any context in which they could say, well, if you voided the deal without us doing anything, we're going to go back to doing some nuclear development. We're going to go and try to scale up what we had agreed not to do, because why wouldn't we at this point? It's to our advantage to do that research. And it is extraordinarily unfortunate that this is the way it's going down. Let me see what else there is with regard to congressional approval here. It looks like not that much. So let's move on then to Donald Trump's prior statements about this. Donald Trump, August 29th, 2013, tweeted, "What will we get for bombing Syria besides more debt and a possible long-term conflict?" Key line here, Obama needs congressional approval. This is not the only time that Donald Trump has pointed this out. August 30th of 2013, the day after, quote, "The president must get congressional approval before attacking Syria. Big mistake if he does not." Now, what's really important to understand about this is that I actually agree with Donald Trump that the president needed congressional approval for military action in Syria. There was a case to be made back then that there was an authorization for military force that covered President Obama's actions in Syria. It's a debate, okay? I'm not saying I agree with that. I believe that there should have been new specific approval, a new authorization of force for Syria at the time that President Obama was considering that. But there was at least an argument to be made that there was an umbrella authorization that you could argue covered President Obama's action in Syria and potential further action in Syria. There's nothing like that right now with Iran, okay? And I've heard a very flaccid argument that there are sort of anti-ISIS provisions and authorizations that would allow Donald Trump to do this if he sort of couches it in the right way as being related to that. No, I mean, there is just no authorization here. So if indeed you agree with what President Trump tweeted back in 2013, and I actually do, Donald Trump would absolutely need congressional approval before going into Iran. And I don't know that he would actually be able to get it. And in fact, I think there's a good case to be made that he probably will not. Oh, this is a funny first response here. Dave Weasel, just a year ago, "You are a blithering idiot, and history will reflect your legacy as such," which is probably not true, unfortunately. But we can hope. So this may not become. I'm trying to get out ahead of what is increasingly smelling like, looking like, and feeling like the lead up to the Iraq War. That's what I'm trying to do by pointing out this congressional approval thing, as we may call it. But I'm trying to get out ahead of it if indeed it becomes an issue. It may actually not, and I hope that it doesn't. And from what we are told, it seems as though Donald Trump may understand that Iran is trying to sort of goad him or provoke him into taking action, which could be politically disastrous. It also could be politically advantageous as we approach an election year. But yes, Trump needs congressional approval. He does not have it. And it's not clear to me that he would get it. It's also not clear to me that he would actually go and try to get it, unfortunately. Let's see what's on people's minds here. Some of the super chats that are coming in. Gigi has signed up as a new member on YouTube using the YouTube join button down below. That's new member number 1 of the evening. If we get to 10 new members or 15 new patrons, I will open up the phone lines. And as usual, folks are already calling in. The phone lines aren't open. If the phone lines open, they will be at 617-830-4750. But the phone lines have not actually opened. Let's just listen, just as an example. Here's one voicemail that just came in from someone desperate to get on. Let's take a listen. Okay. Apparently not that desperate, just silence. Here's another example of someone who's trying to get on the phone with
Hi,
me.
David. This is Mark from Newport. You said that as opposed to Elizabeth Warren's wealth tax, that you support increasing capital gains tax rates as it won't force people to sell ownership of their assets. So my question to you, as a financial advisor who desperately wants the wealthy to pay more taxes, but also recognizes the many ways that the wealthy can get around paying capital gains taxes, is don't you think that is capital gains as opposed to income or wealth is too inconsistent of a source of revenue? Let me know. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, we will address that, Mark. Oh, this is the chess guy. This is actually that's Mark from Newport, who we played against each other in chess during a recent live stream. And maybe I would do that if there are some like big time super chats or something from someone who wants to play me on leadchess.org. I'm David Pacman on leadchess.org. I would consider doing that. Okay, so anyway, the phone line's not yet open. They may open if we get enough members, but they are not open at this time. Miles Kaufman says, what is your opinion with a $5 super chat of Rashida Tlaib's Holocaust comments and the Ilhan Omar controversy? So I don't know. I didn't see the Tlaib Holocaust comments. I saw headlines about it, and I'm just so sick of all of the nonsense that I didn't even look at them. So I don't even know what she said. And Ilhan Omar, if there's a new controversy, I also haven't seen it. If it's the old controversy, I have 2 or possibly 3 videos on it, Miles, which you can check out. Okay, Joanna Lupercal. Oh, okay. She includes her the pronunciation, even though that's how I pronounced it, I think. Says, most presidents that started wars got reelected. We are tired of war, so it may not help his reelection chances. In a time when norms keep breaking, a war may sink it. I wish that was true, Joanna, but I don't know that it is. And I think that a big factor in the exploration of military action in Iran is related to a calculation, a political calculation, which is disgusting. I mean, it's disgusting that political calculations are made in which people will lose their lives based on an upcoming election and the sort of timing. But it's not clear to me. I mean, I think that don't change horses in midstream, as stupid as it is, it sort of helped George W. Bush get reelected in 2004. It's not evident to me that it wouldn't help Donald Trump get reelected in November of 2020. I hope that you're right, and that if Donald Trump does take military action in Iran, particularly for political reasons, when British intelligence is telling us there's no increased threat from Iran, doesn't mean there is no threat from Iran. There's a threat from Iran, and we've assessed it, and it's been relatively stable for some time. There's no increased threat right now that justifies any of what Donald Trump is considering doing. I hope that it would sink his reelection chances, but it's not clear to me. Zendicrust says, in 2016, Trumpists warned Hillary wanted war with Iran. Yeah, I addressed that on the broadcast show today, and I pointed out, when you look at what's happening with the abortion bills, and all of these anti-abortion bills that we are now seeing in Alabama and Georgia and Missouri, I'm going to talk about on tomorrow's show. This is part of the long-term strategy that the right has had: obstruct Merrick Garland, get a Republican in, get some conservatives on the Supreme Court to pull the Supreme Court as far to the right as it's been in a while, and then use crazy state-level of anti-abortion bills that will be struck down by lower courts, appeal them to the Supreme Court, And then eventually it will open up the door for an effective reversal of Roe v. Wade, even if Roe v. Wade in and of itself remains in force. That would not happen if Hillary had been elected, right? So for all of those people who were saying, if it's not X, whoever I want, I don't care if it's Hillary or Trump. It's the same. I'm staying home or I'm voting for some third party candidate or whatever. Supreme Court and what's going on with abortion right now is sort of exhibit A of why that matters. Number two, I know that there are people who are writing to me saying, no, David, Hillary would also have gone to war with Iran. I don't think so. And certainly not under these circumstances of no increased threat from Iran. I think Hillary Clinton would have listened to our allies in terms of the intelligence. British intelligence is telling us there's no increased threat. So you can, I mean, certainly Hillary Clinton is way more hawkish than I am. There's no doubt about that. There's no denying that. But right now, we would not be at risk of war with Iran under these circumstances if Hillary Clinton were president of the United States. I didn't vote for her in the primary, right? Just yet another disclaimer. Okay, let me say a big, big thank you to Gordon Polito. Gordon Polito is new member number 2 of the evening. Okay, and as I said at the top of the stream, if people, this is my last live stream for a while because I'm flying away tomorrow for a very, very, very long time, something like 9 days anyway. So if people want to call in, and it seems like people do because the phone number is going crazy, even though it's not open, it's set on go straight to voicemail mode right now. Oh boy, those are a lot of even, oh man, Jimmy from Philly. Let's just listen to what he said.
David, Jimmy from Philly. I'm going to a Trump rally in Montoursville, PA on the 20th of this month. MAGA, baby!
Very, very sad. Anyway, people going bonkers to get on the phone. I'm glad to open the phone lines if and when we get 10 new members. We have 2 right now, okay? We have the person who signed up on YouTube, who was Gigi, and then we have Gordon Polito, and we also have number 3, Sarah Tricky signing up using the very tricky coupon code SAVE35, which drops a $60 membership to just $25. One extra incentive I will throw your way. If you want us to open the phone lines and sign up and you want to call in, I will give you priority on the phone line. When you sign up, include your area code in either the first name or last name field in addition to your name. And then what I'll do is I will write down your area code on a legal pad that I keep with me at all times in case I need to write anything down. I'm kidding. I just keep it with me during the show. I'll write down your area code so that when we open the phone lines, I will go to you first, okay? An extra incentive to get us to 10 new members. We're at 3 right now, and if we get to 10, I look forward to hearing from lots of folks. Let's see what else we've got in Super Chat here. Brian Farron, Miami Dolphins Analytics, says, why are some driven towards far-right ideologies? It depends on who you're talking about. So familial politics has a big influence over politics. So it's just a statistical reality that your politics are far more likely to align with those of your parents or the environment you were raised in than to conflict, although many people abandon the politics they were raised around. Number 2, there are sort of brain fear centers and other sort of neurological elements to being predisposed to certain ideologies, being more or less open to difference and new experiences, and being more or less sort of triggered by the fear of things, which can get people into far-right ideologies. Lack of community. I've interviewed a lot of former white nationalists and white supremacists and racists and all of those folks. And I have consistently heard from them that a big factor in how they were sort of indoctrinated was not that they believed the conspiracy theories about Jews or Hispanic people or whatever, but that they liked the community element and they were just kind of like, yeah, I'll go along with whatever these people think. This is a good, this is a crowd that I like being around. So it's a different answer for different people, Brian. And as a result, getting people out of those ideologies also is different for everybody. Ryan Bentley says, what do you think is the possibility that Democrats are saving impeachment in case Donald Trump is reelected? I don't know if that would make sense. I'm trying to think of whether that would be logical. So the idea is you try to beat him without impeachment. and then you try to impeach him if he gets reelected. I don't know. I don't know if that's a logical approach. I mean, I guess it depends on whether you think trying to impeach him now would hurt or help his chances of reelection. I've been of the mindset that at least starting impeachment debate on the floor of the House, most people haven't actually seen the content of the Mueller report. They basically have the mindset of William Barr's 4-page propaganda letter. So I have been theorizing, hypothesizing that if Democrats start impeachment debate on the floor of the House, that just getting out a lot of the content of the Mueller report would damage Trump's 2020 reelection chances. But you're sort of suggesting something different, Ryan. It's interesting. I'll think about it a little bit more. Elwood sends $1. Thank you. Mitchell Gardepe is a new member using the join button down below. That's new member number 4 of the evening. And I also want to say thanks to Timon Schneider. Timon Schneider, or Timon Schneider, I'm not sure how the first name is pronounced, who is new member number 5 of the evening, taking advantage. There is a crazy coupon code that I don't even really mention. Let's see if I can even show you in the flesh. Let's see here. There's a coupon code that I very rarely mention, and that is a coupon code that gives you a $35 discount off of a yearly membership. So to access, I see people in the chat saying, David, Save 35 is not working, invalid coupon code, etc. Let me just clarify for anybody who's interested in this. That code only works on yearly memberships, okay? If you're on any membership on the monthly tab, the code will not work. If you're on any membership other than $60 on the monthly tab, the coupon code will not work. You must select the $60 a year membership and hit the sign up button. And then the coupon code is Save 35. I'm not going to type it in because if I type in those numbers, it's going to change the shot on the screen. But you type in Save 35, and then it will drop the membership from $60 a year to $25 a year. Okay, so it's got to be that way. It won't work on any other membership. And trust me, folks, it's working because Timon Schneider just used it. And that gets us that's new member number 5 of the evening. Halfway there very quickly. Seems like a lot of people do want to call in. The phone lines are still going bananas right now. Wow, just voicemail after voicemail after voicemail, and a lot of hangups and a lot of crazy stuff. Someone left a 3-minute voicemail. Let's see what's up with that.
Hey, David. I know you mentioned that voter turnout would be the best way for Democrats to win in 2020 and to vote Trump out in 2020, and I completely agree with that. But do you think I don't know if we necessarily need it, but do you...
Okay, so this goes on for 3 minutes, so I'm not going to do that for you right now. But the point I'm trying to make is a lot of people are trying to call in, and they will be gladly welcomed on the phones as soon as we get 5 more new members. Okay, Blackwave54 says, was poppin' Pacman. Can you give some insight into the whole Venezuelan embassy ting? Deadass was really Gucci with it. Is important or nah? Jew heard gang Gertz. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that dialect, so I'm having a difficult time interpreting the question, and I didn't hear the Venezuelan embassy ting. I don't know exactly what that is. Nabil Kavari says, why does John Bolton hate Iran so much? I was too young to know of him in the Bush years, but looking at it now, it seems super unnecessary and lacking in any value for him and the current administration to attack Iran. Yeah, so you have to understand that there is a contingent that became quite powerful in the lead up to the 2003 Iraq War and during the actual Iraq War, of which John Bolton was a part. That is the PNAC, okay, Project for a New American Century. And they have their fetishes. They have their pet projects. And for many of them, going into Iran, my mic just turning completely the opposite way. Seemed to still work, though. I guess I can talk into the side of it as well, but I'm not going to do that. It would look very weird if I did the show like this. The PNAC folks they had a number of pet projects. One of them was, we want to go back into Iraq to finish the job that wasn't done by George H.W. Bush. And Iran has been on their radar as well. And John Bolton now is in a position where he potentially is able to influence that. And he's going to damn well try, and we've got to try to prevent him from being able to do it. Zendacrust says, if dominionist policies like pro-life increase, recession starts, violence toward immigrants worsens, and war starts, I don't know about the future of the United States. Yeah, listen, I mean, we did a story today on the bonus show about how the birth rate in the United States is at a record low, and that the number of births last year declined for, I think it was like the fourth year in a row or something like that. And one of the most commonly cited reasons that people gave for why they are choosing not to have kids is the state of politics. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you're right wing and you don't like left wing politics that are enacted, or that you're left wing and you don't like Trump. That's part of it. But there's this bigger sort of fatalism, I guess you would say, that is difficult to avoid when you consider how we are destroying the planet, and, you know, intractable partisanship and a lot of this other stuff. And I understand that feeling of, man, if things keep going this way, like we're completely and totally screwed. At the same time, I think that there is some self-regulatory effect of our political system. Now, that doesn't mean that things reverse before damage is done. Look at the environment as a perfect example. But I think if the things that you're pointing out actually happen, that there will be something else voted for by the American public. Now, how much better it is remains to be seen. Is it center left, pro-corporate democratic politics versus Trump? Or do we get something truly, you know, on the left, more social democracy? I don't know. And a lot of that is going to depend on a lot of the things that happen between now and November of 2020. And we need to be laser focused on expanding the lead in the House. I'm doing a story on tomorrow's show about how unlikely it is that Democrats will take over the Senate, but we still might be able to get +1 or +2 in 2020. And obviously, removing Donald Trump. Shane Babka. I'm planning actually on my upcoming trip. I'm planning on having some chocolate babka, which is just one of my favorite desserts. If Roe is overturned, will gay marriage be next? Not necessarily. No, I don't think so. I think that the Roe v. Wade is from 1973. And there are ways that you can undo the impact of Roe v. Wade. You can overturn it in spirit without overturning it legally speaking, by getting a favorable finding by the Supreme Court, which then allows all sorts of state level bans to be voted in and upheld. With gay marriage, it's a little bit different. And I think it would be much more difficult to overturn it in the same way, because the whole approach for these state level anti-abortion bills is that they try to have a focus that, in legally speaking, even though we see it as Roe v. Wade legalized abortion, they want to make it illegal. They're trying to focus it legally in a way that it could slide through without Roe v. Wade having to be overturned. And with gay marriage, it would be far more difficult. I think the anti-gay battle lines now are on the lines of religious freedom, and the freedom to continue to fire people for their perceived or actual sexual orientation, and other so-called religious freedoms, like not serving gay people at your business. That's where the battle lines currently are, Shane. RM says, why do you insist on indulging Jimmy's lunacy? I find him kind of funny. I don't know. I mean, I know that Jimmy from Philly is very controversial from the audience, and I see a lot of these comments that people will often post when we hear from him. But I find the guy interesting in some sense, and it's a direct line into true Trumpist mania, and I find that sort of interesting. Okay, I want to welcome new member number 6 of the evening. Miguel Gonzalez Cedeno has signed up using the absolutely brutal discount, Save 35. Save 35 is a discount code that will take a $60 membership. It starts with a $60 membership, and it whittles it all the way down to a $25 a year membership. That's $2.08 a month, okay? Now, to address this, this is actually a good opportunity to address this last super chat. Jimmy is a member, okay? Jimmy from Philly is an absolutely feverent, look that one up on Urban Dictionary, a feverent Trumpist. I mean, completely unhinged in every way. And yet, the fact that I have shown respect to him as an individual, although I do not even remotely respect his political views, Jimmy has signed up for a David Pakman Show membership, okay? If 2% of the progressive audience of the David Pakman Show signed up for a membership, we would be laughing our way away from depending on YouTube revenue and sponsorship revenue, because we estimate like 1% of our audience supports the show financially. It might even be like 0.75% of the audience. If we could just get to 2% of our progressive audience supporting the show, we would be financially soluble regardless of what happens with YouTube demonetization. Jimmy, conservative Jimmy, is a member paying $3.60 a month. Okay. If you like the show, if you support the show, if you think that the show is valuable and you want the show to reach as many people as possible, the Save 35 coupon code effectively works out to $2.08 a month. And most people in the audience can afford that. If you can't, don't sign up. Okay. If you genuinely can't afford $2.08 a month, I don't want your money. But if you can, the right thing is to support media outlets that we like and agree with. And Jimmy is doing it. I think a lot of folks are able to do it. And if we get just 4 more members, I will open up the phone lines tonight. Okay, some very interesting super chats coming in. Nouvelle Cause, which I think means new thing in French. I'm going tomorrow to a place where French is spoken, and I will be speaking French. As a Tesla investor, do you feel electric cars are, chose is a thing in French, so I don't know what that means. It's new something. As a Tesla investor, do you feel electric cars are the greenest transportation option? How about public active transport or hybrids? What do you use? Yeah, I currently use public transit whenever I can. And then I will use ride sharing when parking is not convenient. And I will sometimes drive my car. I don't currently have a hybrid or an electric car. I've had hybrids before. There were questions with hybrids about the batteries in them, and the fact that fossil fuels are required both to make the batteries and then that the disposal of them may sort of counteract the effect of the gas mileage advantage unless you're driving some crazy number of miles per year. So I think that electric is great if we can sort out the battery production piece and if we can get our electric grid off of dirty fuel, right? Because using an electric car that is charged up with electricity generated by fossil fuels, yes, I think it is still better based on the research I've seen, but it doesn't totally solve the problem. Now, as a Tesla investor, honestly, I have not even looked at Tesla stock at this point since I sold half of it a while ago. Let's even take a look. TSLA stock. Let's see how it's doing. So it's at 228. When did I sell? Well, I mean, I don't try to time the market, but it seems maybe I made the right decision. I think I might have sold around this time, around I think I sold around 325. I sold half of it. And now we're down to 2. Wow. So I haven't even looked at this for a long time. I guess maybe I made the right decision. Although my philosophy on investing is I don't try to time the market. I'm mostly in mutual funds and I don't try to time the market. So regardless of my Tesla investment, which apparently, I guess by sheer luck, maybe the right decision by selling half of it. Regardless of that, I think that we should be, number one, moving off of fossil fuels. Number two, the most interesting proposal to me is electric vehicles with electricity that does not come from fossil fuels that are autonomously shared, because most people have their cars parked 95% of the time. And if we could have sort of a just-in-time autonomous system where you need a ride and the car picks you up and then it picks someone else up and then there's not all these cars driving around and sitting around, that's the best thing in my mind, although it is pretty ambitious at this point in time. Let me thank a couple of other new members, or one new member. Jesus Mendoza is new member number 7 of the evening. Okay. If we get 3 more new members, I will open the phone lines. I think we should do it. Because this is the last time I'm going to be doing a stream and potentially taking calls until I get back from my trip, which is a combination work trip and pleasure trip. So I say we open the phone lines. We just need 3 more new members, and then we will do that. Sean Geiss says, have you ever read Stephen Kinzer's Overthrow? I have not. It's an intriguing and informative book about how the U.S. government from Hawaii to Iraq successfully overthrew their governments and the tactics used and people involved. I have not read that, and I already have a bunch of books, a small stack, not a huge stack, but I've got a bunch of books that I'm bringing with me on my trip to read on the planes and in transit between places, but I'll add it to my list of maybe further into the future to read. Jackson says, what is your favorite lesser known policy of Andrew Yang's? I couldn't really say offhand. Really putting me on the spot here, Jackson. I'm not sure. I'll get back to you on that. Rock Lee is our newest David Pakman Show member using YouTube's membership platform, which is fine. With peace and love, all memberships are welcome. Just remember, YouTube takes 30% of the membership fee. Our website takes only 2.9% to process payments. So just something to keep in mind. And also, Michael Davis has signed up for a new membership on our website. That is new member number 9. So we have now, we're only one new member away from opening up the phone lines. And I see that the voicemails continue to flow in. We may get the phone lines opened if we get just one more new member. Who's it going to be? And if you want to get right on the phone with me when we open the phone lines, include your area code in the first or last name field, and then you will get priority treatment. Okay, Zendicrust says, are you a fan of George Strombo or Michael Brooks? George Strombo, I've not seen anything of his for years. And Michael, I know personally, but I don't know that I've ever seen his show. So I know him personally, and he's a nice guy, but I his actual work, I don't think I've ever seen his program other than maybe a few minutes when he had Anna Kasparian on, and they were talking about Dave Rubin. But otherwise, I've not seen anything that either of these folks has done for a very, very long time. Okay, we have our 10th member, and our 10th member is Ryan M. Ryan M has signed up at davidpakman.com/membership. So I am going to be true to my word and open up the phone lines for everybody at 617-830-4750. You can start calling in now. I will wait a little bit for the phone lines to get filled up. And for people who don't know, the reason that we do the membership drive to open the phone lines when I do live streams is the phone system actually costs money. And when we have, as we often do lately, 30, 40, 50, or even as many as 60 people who are holding as we take calls, we're paying for every single one of those people who's holding, and it starts to add up. We have had record phone bills basically every month now, dating back like 6 or 7 months. So to account for that, we do a little membership drive whenever I do extra phone calls, phone line opening. So that's the source of that. Okay, 617-830-4750 is the number. I am going to very, very shortly get to those phone calls, and curious what is on people's minds. Let's see here. I'm getting myself dialed into the system, and I think we're basically ready to go. So let's see. Why don't we start today with, let's go. This is an interesting one. This is someone we've not heard from since December of last year. And in the notes, it says New Jersey Boston College graduate student. Does that ring a bell to you, whoever this is?
Hello.
Yes, that's you.
Hi, David. This is actually Sabrina Zafar.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you, Sabrina. That's why. So Sabrina's actually one of our moderators. So you're from New Jersey? These are interesting notes that we have in our system.
Yeah, so I'm from New Jersey. I moved to Boston to go to BC. I just graduated.
Right. Congratulations.
Huge fan of your show, obviously.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I had sort of like a non-political random question.
Sure. And then I'm going to have questions for you as well, by the way.
Okay, sure. So I was wondering if you, are you into self-help books at all?
Not really, no. Let's see. The closest thing to self-help books I've read. So I recommended the book by journalist Dan Harris on the show yesterday or the day before called 10% Happier, which is about how he found mindfulness meditation and befriended a lot of interesting, like, big meditation gurus. And I read it not really as a self-help book, and I don't even know that it is a self-help book, but more about a guy in the media who had a nervous breakdown on air. So that I've read some of the stuff by Eckhart Tolle. I think that's how he pronounces his last name, although it's very woo-woo for me, but I've just heard it was interesting, so I checked that out. But no, I don't really read self-help books.
Okay. So, like, with me, I'm just sort of, like, struggling. I mean, I just started a job, so I guess I don't really know how to handle my finances.
Mm.
So, like, it seems like you're really good with your finances and, you know, all those things. So what would you suggest for, like, a starter? Like, how do I go about handling
Yeah. So
or
here's
learning
okay.
about?
So two things. Number one, I would go to the blog, Mr. Money Mustache. Mr. Money Mustache is the blogging name of a guy named Pete Adney, who we've had on the show.
Okay.
And just go back to the archives. Go to I once read his entire blog when I got into him. Some of the things are a little bit exaggerated, like you don't need to go as crazy as he suggests, but that's a really good framework. But a couple things are basically, if you don't have $1,000 saved outside of your sort of day-to-day expenses for an emergency, consider that an emergency. That needs to be your number one priority.
Okay.
Consider every single bill that you have and your budget, and really consider whether it makes sense to make those expenditures, or to maybe build up initially the $1,000 and eventually a 6-month emergency fund. Look at what debt you have and explore what of it is necessary. I mean, this is all the stuff is outlined by Mr. Money Mustache, but that's one of the better personal finance bloggers that I recommend.
Okay. Looks like a great source. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So, and Sabrina, here's my question for you. How many people are you finding that you have to ban on YouTube every time there's a live stream?
Not maybe about 2 or 3 at least.
At
There's
least,
always
okay.
those trolls.
And
Yeah.
what is it that they're usually doing that gets them banned?
Well, saying very obvious trolly things, like I had one commenter say something against Jews, or just, you know, the usual.
Yeah. Okay. So there's nothing. It's just like the normal stuff you see in the YouTube comments on videos. You're seeing it in the chat, and you just are kiboshing it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very good. Okay. All right. Very good. Well, Sabrina, appreciate your help moderating.
All right. Thank you so much, David.
Okay. Great. Take care. Let me welcome 2 new members, Mark Askew and Eric Krieger. Thanks to both of you. Mark using the This Is 2020 40% discount. Eric using the Save 35 discount off of a $60 membership. Very, very good. Appreciate that. Let's go next to, where are we going to go next? Let's go to a lot of new area codes. We're taking calls, by the way, at 617-830-4750. Let's go to the 361 area code. Who's calling today from 361?
Hi, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Who's this?
Hi, this is Rolando. I'm from Corpus Christi.
Hey, how's it going, Rolando?
Hi. I was just wondering what you thought about introducing standards for argumentation within, like, I guess, like a legislature setting. Like, I noticed that you had like a series on like logical fallacies and stuff. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I was thinking maybe it would be helpful if we saw outlines of arguments and, like, you know, like if-then statements, and like listed like assumptions of arguments, like whenever people are arguing on like the Senate and stuff.
Yeah, I understand your motivation for that, because you have a mind, I'm inferring, where it's very easy to get caught up in like political and rhetorical speech and sort of like not understand the crux of an argument in that logically, in sort of the format of formal logic. The problem is that I think we're going to have an engagement problem, because for a lot of people, having to read through every single political argument in sort of the formal logic notation you're suggesting is going to be a big glaze over factor.
I can see that. I just thought that maybe it would be good to have record of what people like argued. You know what I mean?
Well, we have records. I just think they're not in formal logic notation the way you're suggesting.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Thanks for answering my question.
My pleasure. Great to hear from you, Rolando. Appreciate it. Let me get to a couple of super chats that have come in. Eris is Love says, do you think we could be approaching a time in our history where the best option is to split into 2 nations? Halp Eric is gumming my toes. Okay. I don't know what that last part means, but, and I don't know who or what Eric is, but it's a very, very interesting super chat. I mean, listen, there is already a case to be made that there are regions of the United States that are so culturally different that they easily could be different countries. I think that there would be an intangible negative effect of the United States breaking into multiple countries that I would not like to see. But certainly, I feel like my life in Massachusetts has nothing to do with the life of a rural Oklahoman in terms of culture, in terms of economy, in terms of opportunities, in terms of media consumption, and even what national priorities should be. So I think that it wouldn't be totally illogical to do that, but I think it would be very, very damaging in practice. It would also be financially destructive for red states, big picture. Jess L says, what's the best way to talk politics with Trump people? Depends what you're trying to do. If you're just trying to be respectful and avoid a fight, don't volunteer your own politics. Just listen politely. But if you want to sort of engage in a conversation, I think there's a couple good tools. One is ask. I got this from Jay Tomlinson from Best of the Left podcast, who I saw yesterday, actually, here in Boston. And he's given this to me before. He says, a really great thing at the beginning of a conversation with people who very much disagree is, imagine that you're talking about healthcare, right? You should say, great, I want to talk about this issue with you. And what I think would be useful before we start is you have a sense of what my position is. Tell me why you think I hold the position I hold, right? And see if they attribute your position to good faith or bad faith. Most people will attribute your position to good faith. So somebody who doesn't want single payer healthcare or whatever, most people, if I say to them, tell me why you think I do want single payer healthcare. Most people, even if they disagree, are going to say something along the lines of, well, you probably want single payer healthcare because you think it's the best way to get the best care to the most number of people. And that is immediately going to sort of restructure the frame of the debate in a much less negative way. It doesn't mean you're going to agree on the policy you want, but that's an interesting thing that I think is useful. And then you go to the defeasibility question, which is, what evidence, now that you've established what my position is and why I have my position, what evidence, if I could present it to you, would make you reconsider your position and maybe come over to my position? And I think that that's a really great way to start conversations in general with people that disagree with you. Let's pick up next on our caller from the 843 area code. Who's calling from 843 today?
Hi, David. This is Chris from Texas.
Hey, Chris, what's going on?
I have a question about education. You know, progressives are very interested in having free college tuition. But one problem that's not really talked about is that our high school education is far behind the rest of the world.
Yes.
What are some things you think we could do to improve our high school education?
Well, it needs to, number one, actually be funded properly in every state. And there are states where, as a result of a combination of deliberate attacks on public education, various types of voucher schemes, and many other reasons, and just general, bad budgeting at the state level, particularly by red states. But public education is just not even remotely funded at the level that it should be. The student to teacher ratio is not appropriate. The buildings are falling apart, et cetera. So just dealing with that alone would be a big step forward. But then when it comes to curriculum, I believe that we need to start teaching critical thinking, philosophy, and go back to teaching civics and government in places that have stopped teaching it immediately at the 6th or 7th grade level. And that is going to much better prepare students both for college and for the real world.
I think that's a great idea. And, especially here in the South, there's a lot of schools don't want to fund science education, which is just a huge, huge problem.
That is a absolutely disastrous problem. And then I think, anytime you talk about teachers, it starts to get a little touchy. But what you have to understand is a lot of the younger teachers that are teaching now, who are my age and younger, they never were taught this stuff either, right? So we now have a generation of teachers that never had critical thinking and philosophy and all of these other topics. And that's just as much of a problem as the students not being taught it.
Exactly. Well, thanks for taking my call. I love the show, and just thanks a lot.
All right, Chris from Texas, thanks so much. Great to hear from you. We're taking calls at 617-830-4750. Couple of other super chats. Nate, who I presume is from Canada, or at least is transacting in Canadian currency, says, David, your last sit down with Jesse Lee Peterson was amazing. Please talk to him again. I need more of that in my life. I am tentatively working on a big event. Maybe big if a lot of you people show up, with Jesse Lee Peterson, which hopefully I can announce in the next like 3 to 4 months. And Eris is Love says, I appreciate your thoughtful answers. Thank you. Let me go next to the 610 area code. Who's calling today from 610?
Hey, my name's Paul, and I'm also from Philly.
Hey, Paul from Philly. What's going on?
Not too much, man. I do really appreciate listening to you. I promise to keep the call civil, everything. I really think you have a gift of gab, and it's really evident in the way you communicate. So I have a question sort of about communication itself. So
okay,
I'll just say, so do you see communication about politics as the highest intellectual goal?
No, I don't think I mean, that's an absolute. The highest intellectual goal, I don't know that it is communicating about politics. I think politics does affect our lives. Even if you don't care about politics, politics still affects your life unless you, I don't know, live a sort of like ascetic, isolated rural life or whatever. So I do think that communicating effectively about politics is a high priority. But I'd have to think about what I think is the greatest form of communication in that sense. I don't think that it's.
I think a lot of your ethical, the way you do speak very, very clearly about the way you feel about your ethics. And I did like that comment with the last caller, one before that, where you were saying that, we should teach the kids civics or government at a much younger age. Like, I totally agree with these points of view, and like that's where I'm saying, like, my question really comes down to, do you see what you're doing as an art, as a live streamer on YouTube or whatever your platforms are? I'm new to you.
I mean, listen,
but,
I'm not here calling myself the next Van Gogh, but I do think that if you ask me, is effective communication an art or a science? I do think it's a combination of both.
Okay, that's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, my pleasure. Great to hear from you. Appreciate the phone call. Let's go next to the 609 area code. Who's calling today from 609? 609, are you there? I heard a little noise there.
Hello?
Yes, that's you. Who's this?
Oh my God. Oh, hi. Oh, I'm so sorry. I was actually okay. So this is my question, and this is a little bit off topic, and I get what y'all saying about the school, but you know what? Rent is pretty high. Is any of the candidates going to talk about rent at all?
Well, Elizabeth Warren has a plan that she claims will reduce rent by 10% over 10 years and create 1.5 million jobs. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have not seen it, but I am happy it exists because, it's getting hard out here, and I think that we should really be thinking about technologies for the earth. Like, we're probably on our way to being Venus too at this point.
Well, let me ask you this. And by the way, so first, did I catch your name?
It's Kristen. I'm sorry.
Kristen. Okay. And where are you calling from, Kristen?
Calling from Delaware.
Delaware. Okay. Kristen, is there anything you could do to make your audio more consistent? Because it's going from extremely low to off the charts.
I'm so sorry. I had it on speaker. I had no expectation to get pulled onto the line.
Okay, good. So listen, Kristen, are you in a very high cost of living part of Delaware?
Yeah. Right on the corner, there's an apartment that's like $1,800 a month to rent, and that's a 3-bedroom. And there are places in Delaware that go up to $1,500 just for a 3-bedroom, and you're lucky if you can get a 2-month. And I was just speaking to someone today because I'm an Uber driver, and he says his rent is $1,900 a month in New York.
Right. Yeah, I mean, 1,800. I live in Boston, and when you say 1,800 for a 3-bedroom, that sounds that would be gone in a minute. The minute it goes on Craigslist, because that's in Boston that would be considered very inexpensive. But I understand that Boston's an extremely expensive place.
It is.
Yeah.
So is New York.
New York even more so.
You can see that is getting expensive all across the border. Our wages are going down.
Right.
They're not really going up all per se, but
they're stagnant, and as cost of living goes up, your effective wage is in a sense lower.
Yes.
Right. Listen, I mean, I agree with you that this is a big problem, and I would check out Elizabeth Warren's affordable housing proposal. It's something, and again, it's a long-term plan, and no votes have been cast yet, but it's an idea.
Yeah, I know. That's just one of my things. I'm really passionate about just getting like rent under control, because if it increases as it is right now, soon they won't have people to move into these places.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Kristen, very much appreciate the phone call.
Oh, well, thank you. You have a wonderful day, sir.
Okay, you too. Take care. Let's see. Why don't we go next to our caller from the 502 area code? Who's calling today from 502?
Hey, what's up, David? This is Scott from Kentucky. I believe we spoke a few months back. We probably don't remember me. I was talking about PewDiePie, all that garbage. But anyway,
Did you say your
I got
name was Josh?
No, Scott.
Scott. Okay, gotcha. What's going on today,
yeah.
Scott?
All right, so I just wanted to follow up, and I know and talk about all the Alabama stuff that's going on at the moment, and I've just it's just been bothering me that a lot of centrist Democrats or maybe just center left, or people who claim to be center left, haven't really been given it the attention it deserves. Or 3 months ago they'll be like, oh well, I'm a liberal, but I think that all this stuff going in New York is terrible. But right now they're making videos like, oh, look at these silly reactions from Alyssa Milano and AOC and stuff, and they're not really actually paying attention to the bill in question, and still and still going out of the way to defend the conservatives attacking it. Of course, because for all centrist Democrats, they're always the victims.
So wait, so your
on
criticism is of the centrist Democrats because they're misstating what's in the bill, or I don't know that I understood your question.
Brother, okay, for example, 3 months ago, in regards to that Tim Pool interview you had a while back, about 3 months ago, he uploaded a video that was like, New York is proposing this barbaric, abortion bill that would allow like a post-birth abortion quote. And of course, I mean, I disagree with that too, fundamentally. But but he claims to be pro-choice, and a lot of liberals that claim to be pro-choice, and with all this going on right now, they're still like, oh, look at Alyssa Milano's silly sex striking, all this, and but not actually. Fighting back when they claim to be pro-choice.
Scott, I'm not going to lie. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. Tim Pool made a video 3 months ago.
Yes.
He was attacking the New York bill.
Right.
And then recently, he made like 2 or 3 videos, going after Alyssa Milano and AOC about their kind of silly responses to the Alabama bill.
Okay.
Instead of actually going after the Alabama bill.
I see what you're saying. So you're saying if Tim Pool is against abortion and there's this Alabama bill, it would be better.
No. He's pro-choice, but he doesn't stick up for it.
He's for abortion.
He's
for abortion, right? You're saying it would be better for him, instead of criticizing Alyssa Milano's response to the bill, to go after the bill, because that's really the problem.
Yeah, and all this other SJW news and stuff like that. When you have issues that you supposedly support, instead of actually speaking out for them, because almost 100% of your audience is conservative, but you're, I guess, one of those Trojan horse liberals that supposedly support things. But I don't know. Do you have any opinion on that? Or I don't want to start any drama. I mean,
no, I really don't, Scott. I really don't, but it's really a pleasure to hear from you again. And these are all issues I'm absolutely going to be following and taking under advisement for sure, and for the long term.
Yeah, and it's not just him. It's a lot of quote liberals like Sargon and stuff. But I appreciate talking to you, buddy. You have a good one. Okay,
Scott. Take care. Very good. Great to hear from you. Okay, let me look at a couple of other super chats here that have popped up. Let me see. Darkhay Imp says, sorry if it's unfair to ask you to weigh in on, but would writing in Sanders-Warren if neither wins the nomination be bad or tantamount to voting third party? Yes, I mean, in swing states, if someone else is the nominee and you write in Sanders-Warren, you're helping Trump. I mean, that's just the pragmatic reality. We can have a discussion about the ethics of it, but that is the practical reality. Travis the Human says, abortion bans seem to be more about political long games than fetus rights. Republicans will pass dead bills if they can smear the leftist and liberals. I wish it was just about smearing leftists and liberals, but passing dead bills is actually about trying to get something to the Supreme Court, and it's a pretty damn clever strategy that may actually work. Why is my phone going off? I could have sworn I silenced it. Okay, I didn't. Interesting. Elia Fuimanao. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. On the topic, why is the right to housing not a thing? One homeless, 2 rising rent, 3 people need work, 4 2008. Yeah, I mean it's I think there's the perception that it is less of an immediate issue than healthcare for the left. Although there are people who are big in the the housing movement. So I should think about, I don't know why it's not seen as big of an issue, because it is. I mean, everybody needs a place to live. Most people need health care, but there are periods in people's lives where they are relatively healthy and sort of don't. Not a defense of supporting one thing over the other, but that is interesting. Choco flavored cookies 56 says, just got here. Do you think a fetus is a life? A fetus is a form of life. But I think the more relevant question in the context of abortion is whether it is a person. And I think that you cannot make the argument that a fetus is a person until later on in the gestational period of Homo sapiens, which lasts about 9 months. So I think that very often the debates over whether a fetus is a life, to me, don't answer the question of what should abortion laws be. Maximilian Richter says, have you read Capitalism, Socialism, Capitalism, Socialism, Ecology? And what are your thoughts on reducing work hours and ending labor as a commodity, instead using UBI and or income not based on hours worked, so time can be devoted to unprofitable acts? I have not read Capitalism, Socialism, and Ecology. I am in favor of radically reworking the work week. You know, on the David Pakman show, we have done a bunch of different things. We're not fully on a four-day work week, but we have a combination of sort of some flex time in the roles that allow it, combined with Friday not being a regular production day. And we're toying around with different things, and I'm open to UBI and I'm supportive of certain implementations of it. I'm open to income that becomes disconnected from hours worked. And in fact, we have both hourly and salaried people on staff, and with hourly people, I mean, it's literally hourly. So you're a little more restricted, but with salaried people, we're sort of testing a lot of these different things. So yeah, I'm very much in the sort of reworking work movement. Inconsolable says, David, I've been trying really hard to catch your shows and become a member, but I can't find information anywhere on what time your show is on. Well, the broadcast show is produced in the afternoon and then published, so it's not live in that sense. So, there's no particular live time. To become a member, you just go to our website and sign up. That's really easy. And then these live streams are sort of ad hoc when I kind of feel like it and have time, usually a couple of weekday evenings at either 6 or 7 Eastern. Black sends $1. Ariel Fernandez says, who wrote the original U.S. Pledge of Allegiance? I have no idea. Booger Stinkplop sends $10. And Nate says, what are your thoughts on the N-word? I'm Black and I don't really take much of an issue with whites using it in a non-derogatory context. Who do you think should say the word only Blacks, everyone, or no one? Yeah, I mean, I don't use the word myself. And I think that there is something to the idea that it's very dicey for non-Blacks to use it. I am not into language policing. I am not into authoritarianism of that type. So I don't use the word. And I think when other people use it, regardless of their race, you have a pretty good sense via intuition, whether it's, a discriminatory or insulting use of the word. Okay, let me try the 870 area code. Who's calling today from 870?
Hey, David. This is Logan from Arkansas.
Hey, Logan, what's going on?
Oh, so, I'm 17 and I'll be voting in the upcoming election.
Great.
But, sorry, I'm a bit sick. But one thing that I've noticed that, like a lot of media outlets haven't really focused on is my generation's perception of things, which, I mean, I understand why that wouldn't be their focus. But I guess I'm just really worried that there's kind of a I don't have evidence behind this is just conjecture, but that my generation's kind of reactionary right, that they kind of embrace like kind of white identity politics or like we grew up with the popular thing is all the YouTube channels bashing the SJWs.
Right.
And so, I guess not really being aware of substance.
Yes. Well, that's a problem. But is there? I'm not sure I know what your question is necessarily.
Well, as one example of it is just that online characters such as like Alex Jones, Breitbart, and like you have stuff on 4chan and stuff.
Yeah.
There's just kind of an internet culture that we've grown up with, and also like growing up after 9/11.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is kind of a side tangent, but I've noticed like there's not an anti-war movement in my generation at all, like there was in Vietnam.
Right. Well, no. Now I'm wondering, was the anti-war movement during Vietnam 17-year-olds?
That is a fair point, but I mean, like as far as it was a lot of college students.
Yes.
Like at Kent State, you had high schoolers at the colleges, but like I just think that from when I talk to people online and stuff, their perception just generally seems to be that, oh, well, a lot of them don't even know that we're at war. But if I ever bring up like how our the war crimes going on in Yemen or anything like that, one, they're usually not aware, or two, they don't really seem to care about it.
Well, listen, it's a couple different things. Number one, when you're 17 and you can be drafted when you turn 18, you're going to be much more aware of what's going on with the military than when you're 17 and there is no draft. And that's one issue. The other is, you know, in general, 17-year-olds are not the most engaged group with politics as a sort of general rule. So I think there's a couple different factors there, Logan.
I'm sorry this is kind of sporadic, but I guess my perception is just that there is, from what I've observed, which I live in Arkansas, so maybe my perception's skewed, but like people my age, they look at Trump and they just think, oh, he's cool, bashing all the libtards, because
right.
That's the popular insult.
Well, that's
and
why
so
we're in trouble, and Arkansas is a very red state.
And Tom Cotton's my senator.
Right. Logan, listen, I got to run, but I appreciate the phone call. Great that you're engaged at 17 years old. Really appreciate that. Okay. Ariel Fernandez says that Francis Bellamy wrote the Pledge of Allegiance. Very, very good. Nouvelle Coast says, is there a story with your stubble line, or is that a new style? I just noticed that. There's like a line on my beard, and I have no idea what that is. And it's bad. It's really bad. On this side, it's not happening, but there does appear, and you know, I think it's not, like when I look in the mirror, I don't see it, but it almost looks like my mustache is extending all the way back almost to my neck. This is horrible. I'm fully shaving tonight, though, in advance of my trip, because my beard, it's so pathetic. My beard grows so slowly that if I take a trip that's like under 2 weeks, I can just shave like the day before the trip and then not bring any shaving stuff, which is great. Just less stuff that I have to pack. Black sends a $1 super chat and then a $10 super chat saying, I'm 18 in high school and I'm in the Navy enlistment process. The military is my only way out of poverty. This Iran situation has my nerves worked up. I'm not scared, just angry Bolton will kill us all. I sympathize with that. And I understand also the military being your most direct path out of poverty. I do understand that. Call in sometime. I'd be interested to hear more about that. Hassan JF says, what did you think of Liz Warren's tweet where she said we should rely on the military to fight climate change? I didn't see it, but you know, the Pentagon actually understands that climate change is a national security issue, and the military also seems to get that. And I actually think it's an interesting idea. Dusty Dark Horse says, I don't want Bullock to stop being my governor. Ariel Fernandez says that Francis Bellamy was a Christian socialist. And SoxFan223 says, I heard Destiny speak about abortion being legal but unethical. I feel conflicting intuitions. Generally, should I commit to obscurant partisan manipulations or pursue encompassing centrist solutions? You need to apply pragmatism to what you're doing. But I don't think that centrism is the path forward by any means. I don't think abortion is unethical. I just think it would be great to get rid of abortions as a necessity. And right now they are necessary, and so they should be legal and safe. But I also agree, like, it would be great. I don't like abortion as something women have to consider doing, because we know that it is not something that they do which has absolutely no impact whatsoever. It is something that has an emotional impact and otherwise affects women and men who are in a partnership, for example, or have been in a sexual relationship that leads to that conversation. So I don't call it unethical, but I think it would be great to reduce the number of abortions to zero if practically possible. Okay, I've got to run because I got a busy day tomorrow, and then I'm flying out. So I'll try to stream from my trip if possible. It may not be. But thanks to everybody who joined me. Really appreciate it.